A Biography of Sinn Sisamouth. Sinn Sisamouth, 1935 to 1975, was a famous and highly prolific Cambodian singer-songwriter in the 1950s to the 1970s. Widely considered the king of Khmer music, Samouth, along with Ros Sereysothea, Phnom Penh, and other artists, was part of a thriving pop music scene in Phnom Penh that blended elements of Khmer traditional music with the sounds of rhythm and blues and rock and roll to make a westernized sound akin to psychedelic or garage rock. Samouth is believed to have been killed under the Khmer Rouge regime in November 1975. Early life. Sinn Sisamouth, alternative spellings: Sinn Sisamouth, Sinn Sisamouth H, Sisamouth H or Sai with spacing, e.g. Sisamouth, was born in 1935 in Stung Treng Province, the son of Shin Ling and mother Seb Bun Lei, who was of Lao Chinese descent. He was the youngest of 4 siblings, with 1 brother and 2 sisters. His father was a prison warden in Battambang province, and was then a soldier during the colonial Cambodia period. His father died of disease and his mother remarried, and the union resulted in 2 more children. Samouth attended Central Province of Stung Treng Elementary School when he was 5. At the age of 6 or 7, he started to show interest in the guitar, and he would be asked to perform at school functions. He was interested in Buddhist scripture, and he learned Pali from the Buddhist monks. He enjoyed reading books, playing soccer, and flying kites. In about 1951 he finished elementary school, and went to study medicine in Phnom Penh, where he lived with an uncle. Despite the rigorous demands of medical school, Sisamouth still managed to find time to learn how to sing and compose songs. Just as he had in elementary school, he became well known in his school for his musical skills and lyrical talent, and was asked to sing at school ceremonies. By the time Cambodia was granted independence from France in 1953, Samouth's fine singing voice landed him a spot on national radio as a regular singer. He also continued his studies, working at Pre-Keto Melia Hospital. Music career. Early hits and musical talent. Samouth possessed a clear crooning voice which, combined with his own compositions about the pleasures and pains of romance, made him an idol. He sang many ballads, as well up-tempo rock numbers that featured prominent, distortion-laden guitar, pumping organ and loud, driving drums. Other arrangements were more Latin jazz-sounding, featuring woodwinds, brass, and auxiliary percussion. Samouth composed melodies on a mandolin. His songs were usually of a sentimental nature, reflecting on the longings, pains, and pleasures of romance. His lyrical talent was a result of hard work, as well as natural ability. He was known to have used up to 3 different dictionaries in searching for just the right word in the Khmer, Sanskrit, or Pali languages. In the early 1950s, he became a protege of Queen Kosamak Nirarath. He was selected to join the Vong Fleng Pre-Reach Trope, classical ensemble of the Royal Treasury, where together with SOS Mat, he performed at royal receptions and state functions. A number of songs he wrote subsequently bore the unmistakable melancholic melodies of traditional Khmer music he performed in those formative years. Sometime in the mid-1950s, a romantic ballad, Violin Sneha, composed by violinist Has Salon, or Has Salon, catapulted Samouth into stardom. Samouth's other hits of the same period include Srey Sros Kameng, Anusavri Panam Kravan, Chet Srey Dok, Chong Srol, Thingay Dob Pithnu, Keiki, Srey Chet Chuk, Kangray, Kua Nas Asadal Rub Nin Kangray, Thingay Mui Kakda, Somros Chnekeb, Stung Persat, and Preki Ng Oss Sankim. 3 songs from this period were to be re-released much later, in the early 1970s. These are Udam Dwong Chet, available from a popular video site, Prek Eng Oss Sankim, and Chow Dork, the clever musical duet with Ros Sereysothea, showcasing Salon on violin and Samouth on mandolin. Interested readers should look for Chong Srol and Somros Chne Keb on the internet. Dedicated fans should consider making more of these songs available on the web to future generations of Khmer listeners. They are priceless examples of Samouth's earliest vocal style and the poetry that pervades his art. 1960s Cambodian music scene. Beginning in around 1963, Samouth started recording on the Vat Panam label. His Champa Bat Dambang won immediate acclaim across the country. In a rare 1971 appearance on Khmer Republic television, Samouth's interviewer recalled that Champa Bat Dambang was the first opening song at the inauguration of the station in 1965. What captured Samouth's audience in this period was the use of a 4-piece, rock and roll band instrumentation with guitars and percussion, a departure from an orchestral backing band of wind instruments, piano, violin, and the odd accordion. He also experimented with Latin music, an infatuation that may have been started by Prince Norodom Sihanouk in compositions such as Reatrai Del Ban Chuop Phik and Phnom Penh. If anything, Samouth's ability to reinvent himself musically may well be his greatest attribute, and could explain his appeal through different generations of Khmer listeners. By the mid-60s, Samouth's fame had reached its zenith and had him in great demand. One measure of his appeal is exemplified in Pre Prasith, Prince Norodom Sihanouk's second full-length feature film, available on the Prince's website. Playing the piano and apparently shown singing the title song he composed, Prince Sihanouk was actually dubbed over by none other than Samouth. Samouth's popularity, nevertheless, did not eclipse the work of other recording artists, notably those who sang at the national radio such as Im Song Siem and Hoi Mismis Hok Seng, a voice artist at the Phnom Penh University of Arts, popularly known as Sala Rochna, also achieved celebrity status in 1966 with Lolok Nhi Chmor. Hits by these artists often came from the pen of lyricist Ma Lao Pai, a talented poet and broadcaster now living in California, whose masterpieces include Day Samat Trapang Rung, originally performed by Kyo Soka, and in more recent times, by Touch Sonich, and Lolok Nhi Chmor. Im Song Serm's career seems centered on vocal performance rather than musical composition. Kotrol was recorded sometime in 1963, reminding Khmer listeners of the bitter loss of this island to South Vietnam. With Huimes, Serm often accompanied Prince Sihanouk in his regular provincial visits, performing popular Ramvong songs to the masses that have come to greet Cambodia's head of state. On the other hand, despite occasional hits such as Akin, SOS Mat appeared to have been unfairly sidelined in the commercialization of music that took place with the arrival of recording productions such as Vat Panam and later on, Chun Chaya. SOS Mat nevertheless retained a following among older fans, who may have been less open to Samouth's later musical innovations. Also, the popularity of the 45 RPM vinyl records forced commercially minded songwriters to work their compositions into 2.50-minute straitjackets. By then, arguably, Samouth's penchant for putting poetry to music had become a thing of the past. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Samouth sang the soundtrack songs to a number of popular Cambodian films, such as Orn Iui Sre, Orn, Tep Soda Chan, and Thavri Misbong. In Payut Chuk Sar, a 1967 success directed by Lim Kaing, Samouth captured the poignant breakup of lead actors D.Y. Savath and Chia Yuthan with his Nevia Chivit. In a beautiful series of shots choreographed to Samouth's soaring melody, Lim Kaing showed Chia Yuthan leaving on a pirogue, Tuk, as his wife, played by D.Y. Savath, followed on along the banks of the river. Over his long career, Samouth recorded many duets with female singing partners including, in the early 1960s, Mao Sarath, Kiosetta, Chun Vanna, Huimes, Ros Sereysothea, and Pan Ron. Mao Sarath could arguably be called the first female Khmer singer to have achieved nationwide acclaim in the years following Cambodia's emerging political independence. Little is known of her early years. Folklores have it that she was a humble street seller of lottery tickets before her talents were discovered. A valuable example of her art is Sombat Krom Nui, an early 1960s song with a haunting melody which can be found on the internet. In 1969, her Owe On Oss Chet reminded the nation, now charmed by younger upstarts, of her still considerable talents. Pan Ron began recording with Samouth in 1966. Ros Sereysothea started her career around 1967 with the hit Stung Q. Her high, crisp voice nicely balanced the deeper-toned voice of Sisamouth. Samouth in the 1970s. As his popularity increased, Samouth could no longer keep up the pace of writing his own material, so he started performing works by other songwriters. He initially picked songs written by Pov Sifo, Sve Som Euro, and Marleopi, but he would also occasionally sing songs composed by May Bun, a close friend of his, and her Salon. Between 1970 and 1975, he almost exclusively sang songs written by Voi Ho, a long-standing colleague. Regardless of who had written the songs, Samouth always managed to make them popular. Samouth also adapted a number of Thai songs into his repertoire, including Chnam Mun and Snay Klong Vai Ha. From 1972 to 1973, music publisher Kruok Polin issued a collection of sentimental songs, which contained 500 of Sinn Sisamouth's songs. It is estimated that he wrote thousands of songs, possibly at least one for each day he was famous, his son Shin Chaya has said. Along with his original works, Samouth also introduced many Western pop tunes to Cambodia, simply writing new verses in Khmer language. Examples include The House of the Rising Sun, as I'm Still Waiting for You, a particularly good showcase of his sustained phrasing and baritone voice, Black Magic Woman, influenced by the Santana version, under the title I Love Petite Women, and Quando My Love. Personal life, marriage and family. After finishing medical school, he wedded his cousin, Keo Thong Nut, in an arranged marriage. They had 4 children. After the Khmer Rouge, only 1 daughter and 1 son survived. His family life deteriorated as a consequence of the pressures of his career and the temptations that his voice attracted. With regard to his relationship with his wife, one of his sons, Shin Chaya, commented that no woman could pay that price. At the age of 30, his wife left him to become a Buddhist nun. Interested Khmer readers can view a recent interview she gave, posted on a popular video site. Now in her 70s, with most of her family devastated by the wars, the video also contains her appeal for financial support from Khmer fans of the late singer living overseas. Friends and interests. Sinn Sisamouth had a reputation for being very serious about his work. In business affairs, according to publisher Kruok Polin, he would always deliver what he promised. At home, he was a quiet man, and would sometimes not speak more than 10 words in an entire day. When he was not performing, Samouth would lock himself in his room and dedicate his time to writing more songs. His failure to socialize contributed to a reputation for being elitist. His friends at the beginning of his career were songwriters such as Mao Sare, Sing Di, and Sus Mat. His very close friends were Mei Bun and Siv Sun, who was more or less Samouth's personal secretary. Samouth was an avid fan of cockfighting, and he raised fighting birds. In his spare time, he would bet with friends. He exercised regularly by lifting weights every morning. His other interests included reading books at the library and watching French films at the Luch or Phnom Penh cinemas. At night, after he finished performing, Samouth would meet with friends to eat rice porridge. He had contracts with 3 different restaurants in Phnom Penh, in which he was paid 1,500 rials to sing 2 or 3 songs. A bowl of noodles cost 5 rial at the time. He usually sang at KBAL Thmor Bar, Neek Bagantik Bar, and a bar located next to the Interior Ministry. He was not a picky eater. He generally preferred to eat Lao food. When he ate Khmer food, he liked to eat priyahuk and fork tpul tray. He never drank wine or soft drinks, ate chili peppers, or smoked cigarettes, all of which would harm his voice. He always freely gave up-and-coming singers advice and reminded them to take care of their voices. His affable, caring attitude thus won him favor among his contemporaries. The killing fields. In the aftermath of the coup d'état by the Lon Nol government on March 18, 1970, which saw the overthrow of Prince Norodom Sihanouk, Samouth started to sing propaganda songs in support of the fledgling Khmer Republic. In that rare live 1971 television show mentioned earlier, Samouth appeared in a military fatigue, wearing an officer's cap to hide his slightly balding forehead, and performed a number of pro-Republican songs. One such song that became an enduring classic was Maui Ao Yoan, telling the story of a mother giving a mantra-covered magic vest to her soldier son on his way to battle. Referring to Viet Cong troop movements inside Cambodian territory during the Vietnam War, a verse in the same song claimed that the deposed monarch had sold out Cambodia to the Vietnamese communists. Such criticism of the royal family, while understandable at a time of huge political and social changes, was nevertheless unprecedented in Samouth's career, especially as he had been a protege of Queen Kosamak Nirarath, mother of Prince Sihanouk. By this time, however, and save a few memorable songs, many have questioned the quality of Samouth's final years' output. It was claimed his art was becoming formulaic and repetitive. How much he understood the extent of the hellish tragedy that was consuming Khmer society may never be known, but it was clear that by the mid-70s he appeared to have distanced himself entirely from politics, and from anything that could be misconstrued as taking sides. The Khmer Rouge takeover of Phnom Penh on April 17, 1975 saw Samouth forced to leave the city, along with millions of other residents. By this time he had remarried to a dancer in the Royal Ballet, who was pregnant with the couple's second child. The circumstances of his death in the killing fields are unknown, but he had connections with the old government, was highly educated, and was an artist, all trappings of a society that Pol Pot sought to eradicate. One apocryphal story is that before he was to be executed, Samouth asked he be allowed to sing a song for the cadre, but the cold-hearted communist soldiers were unmoved and after he finished singing, killed him anyway. One recent interview of Samouth's former wife is available on a popular internet video site. Besides an appeal for financial support for the humble remnants of Samouth's impoverished family, Samouth's widow relates souvenirs of her famed husband. Legacy. Because his influence on Cambodian music was so great, he is still a household name in Cambodia. His surviving son, Shin Chaya, became a singer for the Cambodian radio, though he himself has admitted he cannot be compared to his father. Although all the master tapes of his studio recordings are thought to have been destroyed by the Khmer Rouge, his work lives on in recordings created from cassettes and LPs that have subsequently been transferred to CD, and his songs are often heard on Cambodian radio stations. Now and then some of Samouth's 1950s and early 1960s hits are brought back to life. One such hit, Sereysothea, re-emerged from oblivion with Suong Chantha's 2002 faithful rendition. In recent years, his 1950s hit song, Violin Sneha, has been reissued by a large number of performers, including Song Seng Horn of Sayonara Productions, Rhode Island, Molkamek, a singer and guitarist of the 1960s who escaped from the Khmer Rouge rule and is now living in France, Ne Seeing a Khmer based in France, Noe Vanath and Him Sivan, a female vocalist from Phnom Penh. Nevertheless, many of Samouth's taped recordings from the 50s and early 60s apparently did not survive and are feared to be lost forever. Samouth, his frequent duet partner Ros Sereysothea, and other Cambodian singers of the era, including Ms Samun, Chan Chaya, Chown Molai, and Pan Ron, are featured on the soundtrack to Matt Dillon's film City of Ghosts. Tracks by Samouth are Mau Pei Na and Net Fash Pa.